me tonight. They got to see me.
I think if you got a guy like that, you build like that, 6'4", guy, you got to trust him.
Everybody watching tonight. So I tell you what, if you get fired into the next, you're in the wrong business. We control this. We run this. And anybody coming out of the house,
They got Jordan Davis last season. They bring Fletcher Cox back in Philly. So I'm sitting there like, we need to put something on this offensive line to combat that. What is going on? Welcome back, everybody. The 11-4 Detroit Lions head into Dallas as 4.5-point dogs against the 10-5 Cowboys. After a bit of a stinker the last 2 weeks, I think it's a great bounce back spot for the Cowboys. Talk to me a bit about how you're feeling going into this one.
Hey, look, we got to get back on the winning side, and we back at home. We back at home where what I'm saying we're a juggernaut, right? So on the road, obviously, this test that we had the last couple of weeks, Buffalo was a different story. We all know what happened. Miami, I really felt like we could have won that game. A lot of different things happened and didn't work out that way. Unfortunately, as far as like the number one seed, out the window. And then as far as the division, I just hate the fact that we're sitting here, having to rely on obviously the Giants or the Arizona Cardinals. But as far as this game, you can see the line sitting at 4.5. And then as far as the money line, I believe it's sitting at plus 230. On Detroit side right now, I think is the biggest money line as far as like this. What's going on their side? And I think the Cowboys, as far as the spread and what we do, when we're the favorite, I think we're undefeated this year, if I'm not mistaken. So we back at home. The here we go offense is back in effect. I think it's good to get all mojo back, man. As far as where we are right now, and I'm not panicking too much. I think we'll be okay. But it's gonna be a tough opponent. It's another test. It's a team that we could potentially see in the playoffs. So I think it's good to come out here and set the tone. But a talented team, and we personally, we got to get back on the winning side and got to start this week.
Before we dive into any of the numbers or the injury report, I do want to say I got a strong feeling. I don't know if we lay the 4.5. I think we get the dub. I think the 52.5 is very much in play. But I think Detroit won their division last week after the first time in 30 years. I think it's a really big deal, man. And I just don't see how you can be that focused after a celebration that big. So go ahead and give me Dallas this week. I'm not touching the points. If I had to, I would probably tease it down to under a field goal. I think it could be a close game. But hey, man, at home, Dallas lays wood, so anything is possible.
Now, I think we got this one. And we'll get into the key points, a lot of things that I think we can do to really control this game. And first I just want to start off with the injury report, right? So for this week, um, Rico Dotto is going to be out, and one thing is important this week is staying balanced, getting back to the run game. Obviously, Tony Pollard, but you have Hannah Lipke, who surprisingly had a lot of touches last week. So I think you'll see a little bit more of him. Unfortunately, with the fumble on the goal line and things like that. But I think before that, and he was making a nice impact in the short yardage situation. So more of him. But could we potentially see Deuce Vaughn? So Rico is out, but Malik Davis, obviously, he's out of being able to upgrade to the practice squad, from the practice squad to the active roster. He have to get signed. So I think it'll be those two. But Deuce Vaughn, if we can get him involved, that may be, something to look out for, right? Another one. So the main one, we know Hankins is going to continue to be out. I know we talked about it previously. We thought he would potentially come back for this game. I think with the last two games, I think the Cowboys are more focused on getting him up to 100%. I think that's the main two guys that's going to be out. And then we have the Tyron Smith news where I think he's questionable this week. Boy, do we need him back.
We do.
Chumadoga, trash. He was trash, man. And and he played well, like in spurts, like early on in the season. But Bradley Chubb and those guys got the best of him. He didn't look good out there, and I'd be happy to just see number 77 back out there. I'm gonna be honest. I think that'll be it for our side. Obviously, on the Detroit side, right? So, CJ Garner Johnson, right? He's been out for the most part. He's gonna continue to be out. Clearly, he ain't coming back. Justin Houston as well. He's out. And then lastly, we have Brock Wright, the tight end, who I believe is going to be out. Cam Sutton, he's questionable. It's a potential that he doesn't play this game, but he may be in there. But other than that, I think Detroit is fairly healthy. We still fairly healthy. We missing some key guys, obviously, but I think for the most part in the injury report, we have what we have. I think the most important guy obviously is getting Tyron Smith back this week.
Dude, This Dallas offense with the offensive line intact, I'll take that against almost anybody any day of the week. But this is a Detroit football team, man, that Jared Goff thrives indoors. Obviously, this game is indoors. So I don't know what kind of defense we're going to be able to hit them with. They got a solid offensive line over in Detroit. They're a very physical team. What we can do is go and dive into these key points a little bit, man. I think the path to victory, you mentioned it, score early, score often. This team does not fare well if they don't put up points early. We saw that in the Buffalo game and the Miami game. It's like Dan Quinn can't really operate without a lead up front. And I don't really understand it. Our pass defense has our run defense has dwindled down. We were at the top of the league in the run defense because we were able to score early and often. But being that we haven't the last couple weeks, obviously James Cook, big game, we've kind of fallen. I think now we're sitting at 19th in the league as far as rushing yards goes, allowed on defense. When it's the point of attack, man, I think we got out physical Detroit. Detroit's a very physical football team. They've got an elusive running back in Jamar Gibbs and an excellent power back in David Montgomery, who seems to have filled Jamal Williams' shoes with no problem.
Yeah, for sure, score early and often, right? I mean, you think about Buffalo, and we talked about this before. Hate to just go back to these past weeks, but being on the road and where we could have been, I hate the could have beens, right? But obviously, Buffalo, we deferred, they come down the field, they score first, whether it was a holding call or whatnot. But on that drive, right, we had opportunities to get on the board, I mean, whether it was the deck shot or then just getting that holding call and moving us out of position, and then we end up with zero. And then you think about Miami, we just moving that ball so well. All the way down the field, we get all the way down to the goal line, and then obviously, what I mean, the missed handoff to Lipke or whatever, man, and then that changes the whole dynamic of the game. I think if we get 7 right there, and then for the most part, really, I think the whole game changes because we played well on defense. We held Miami up to 22 points.
Yeah.
22 points, man.
The number one offense.
Number one offense, and we held their run game in check for the most part, even their pass offense, man. So I think, if we was able to just to get up, what I mean, and things change from there. But because we didn't put those points up, and because they was be able to be ahead, and their run game was able to stay in the game and stay ahead to change things, like it just changed the whole dynamic of the game. So with this one, score first. Just get on the board, right? Because this is another team that can run the ball heavy. You talked about the winning the point of attack and things like that. It's a strong offensive line. What I mean, David Montgomery, Jamar Gibbs, nice dynamic duo. It's kind of similar to the Mostert and obviously the chain matchup. When you think about those two, I think we are a good run defense when the I always say when everything lines up our way. When things start falling behind and we got to play a different type of ball game, it changes. So I think for this one, you definitely got to just stay ahead, man. And what I mean, obviously they have weapons over there, but I think we're not scared of the passing offense for the most part, right? Jared Goff, he can sling it. Amon St. Brown, dope receiver, right? But we just faced Tyreek Hill, right? We went Tyreek Hill, Waddle. We just played Stephon Diggs, right? I think we're okay. What I mean, the passing game, we're okay. But we just got to control this run game. We control this offensive line. I think we'll be okay.
No, and if we can take advantage of the weak secondary in Detroit, right? I think they are 23rd in the league with passing yards allowed. We can win this football game through the air. I know they're solid on defense. They are 4th in the league with rushing yards allowed, right? So Goff thrives off of the play action pass game. So if we can find a way to not allow them to establish the run, one thing, this Cowboys defense against the run, not very good. This Cowboys defense against the run without Jonathan Hankins, trash, right?
Yeah,
so if our offense has allowed us to cover our struggling rushing defense. So the only way to take advantage of them in this game, I think, is to attack that secondary. I would say establish the run, try to be balanced, but for some reason, like Tony Pollard just don't get the rock. I really don't get it. I think this is clearly his last year in Dallas, unfortunately. But in the run game with this offense, man, I think I'm kind of starting to see it where, that we miss Zeke, bro. And Zeke doesn't look terrible over in New England, but we don't have to dive into that too heavy. What kind of stands out to you in this one?
I would say this before I go to what stands out. The fact that they try to get Hunter Lipke in there, in those short yardage situations, and even on the goal line, showed you that was a point of emphasis hitting into Miami this week.
Mhm.
So whether they missed Zeke or not, it was something that was lacking, obviously, from Pollard and then Rico Dowdle not being able to bend. Rico has been that guy, which I
Yeah.
don't understand. And then him being out this week, they're looking for that type of guy, which clearly would have been Zeke, right? But
Mhm.
now they realize that's not a skill set of Tony Pollard, so it's something we got to figure out. Which like I said, I think Limke is a good back for that. Obviously, he had a miscue right there, but other than that, I think he did good in those situations. As far as key points and what needs to happen, right? I think you continue to force feed CD Lamb the ball. Like even in that Miami game, like when he got the ball electric. He
Mhm.
took off. He was pretty much taking that game over by himself. And then I think you have a similar game set. But the one thing I'm missing right here is you have to get those other guys involved to make them lack off CD Lamb just a little bit more. Like I need to see more of Brandon Cooks, man. He was doing a good job of him stretching the ball. Having that kind of threat of just being deep and backing those guys off. I need to see a little bit more from him. And then Jake Ferguson in the middle of the field, the weapon he is, we haven't seen him featured the way we was prior to these past couple weeks. Get those guys involved, and I think that'll open up everything else. But you said a key thing where you say stay balanced. I think more importantly than all of those things, as far as getting those guys the ball, I think you got to stay balanced. Even though Detroit is good against the run, you got to continue to just kind of keep hammering it away because I think Dak obviously the threat of the play action, him using his legs, that's just important of obviously just taking those shots and getting those other guys involved. So we got to stay balanced for this one.
No, and you mentioned that Chuma Doga did not live up to expectations. I think he is perfect in the swing tackle role. But Dak's mobility is going to be very important in this game. They have an elite pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson, who is extremely talented, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that we are more than likely going to have Tyron Smith back is a huge bonus. I don't really know. I think what's his name, Brian Johnson, the OC over in Detroit. He's a hot commodity this offseason. A lot of people are saying he's going to get paid something like 15, 20 million a year as a head coach. Where he ends up, I don't know, but he's still got a point to prove. And Jared Goff and these Detroit Lions, man, you mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's lights out. He's one of my favorite receivers in the
Yeah,
league.
for sure.
Quick side note, too, we got the fantasy playoff championship this week,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
happen to have Goff and St. Brown in my lineup, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do here, right? Because I don't know if I can play Goff this weekend against you, but you want me to beat you with Baker Mayfield. The other side of it, who is going to be the one that's going to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown? I think he's going to get his work. Is Gilmore too old to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown? But then at the same time, Sam Laporta is an elite young tight end, and we saw the way Miami worked us up the seam with Smythe last week, right? So I think this is a game where they're going to feature, Laporta like they always do. And Jaron Curse, I believe I've got a stat here from Defy, right? So he was ranked the 474th defensive player out of 478 last week. That's almost dead last out of 500 people, bro. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
J. Ron has not been good this year, man. And the safety play is everything. Is
And
everything.
to make matters worse, right? Again, this was Defy dropping this knowledge on us. 29.7 coverage grade for Jaron Curse, 35.8 for Dono, two worst graded safeties in coverage last week.
And
I
unfortunately, Dono he's signed, right? J. Ron is not signed. So you talked about two key guys, Pollard not being back. I think J-Ron is. I think the ship is sailed. I want to see a little bit more of Wanye. I seen Wanye making some plays out there. With Amara St. Brown and who would cover him? Like I think Stephon Gilmore covers that matchup. With the speed and everything like that. I think this matches up more for his obviously his playing style. Tyreek Hill and those guys is a different animal. It was just kind of like whatever you got to do, we're gonna have to line up how we're gonna line up. These guys are just fast, right?
Yeah,
Amama St. Brown is a technician. Stephon Gilmore is a technician. I think it lines up that way, and then Bland just let him hold his side down, and maybe he gets some opportunities on the other side. As far as Laporta has been nice this year. Um,
beast.
the young tight end, I like him. He's been making plays. He does it all. Extremely young talented tight end that does it all, and I like him. But the safety play. Maybe Malik Hooker has to be that guy. I know he's center field, but Javon Curse, the tight end racer we once knew he was, he just hasn't been that guy this year, man.
He's falling
You
off
got
quick.
yeah, for sure, man. And then you talk about the play action, and I think that's where Laporta kind of plays his part the most. I think if you could control this run game, control this defense, we may not have to worry about Laporta that much. Long as we can keep things in front of us, not allow the guys to get behind us, we may be okay. But Amon St. Brown, obviously, he's a beast. As far as the other guys, you still got to worry about a Jameson Williams as far as getting deep. And that's why I think Bland comes into play. Guys like that, you just kind of just let him do his thing and stick back there. Reynolds, they got some serviceable guys that obviously can make plays every once in a while, but obviously it's that guy you worry about the most. But I think Stephon Gilmore's up for the challenge this week.
I think too. So I watched quite a bit of that Minnesota and Detroit game last weekend. Merry Christmas, everybody. And they did feature Jamison Williams quite a bit more than what I've seen in this season so far. So it does seem like he's kind of getting up to speed after that injury that he suffered, last season. You look through this backfield though of Detroit. Obviously, they're going to feature their backs, and we've got some depth issues at linebacker. Rashawn Evans obviously got busted with the marijuana charge. We had to let him go, and it kind of leads me to think like, where do we go at linebacker from here? Because he has stepped in, obviously not as a starter, but he has filled his role on the team very nicely. Do we have the depth at linebacker to contain a solid Detroit run attack?
I think we do. I think it's more so the guys up front. If they can control the line of scrimmage, point of attack, that comes back into that, right? Then we don't have to worry about those guys getting to the second level. And I think that's important. Obviously, we're a smaller team, at linebacker, man. So Marquise Bell and DeMar Clark, those guys have played well, but boy, did we think, with LV going out and things like that, it was cool at first. We was getting all these points up and we was keeping teams at bay, and those guys was getting sideline to sideline, and you seen all the speed. But when it's just on base, and then like mano and guys just got to be physical and getting downhill. LV was still playing good ball, and that's where we miss a guy like that, right? With Rashawn Evans going on, I think he came out, he had some splash plays, but for now, it's like, yo, we got to deal with what we got to deal with.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think it's more on the guys that's up front. I think if D Law and those guys continue to do what they can do, I think we'll be good. But it begs the question again: should Micah, when it's not an obvious passing down, right? Should he move into this linebacker role and allow him to come downhill and be physical? I think it's something you got to continue to take a look at. Dan Quinney's past couple weeks, we talked about adjustments, we talked about things like that. Hasn't been a case, and then I think it's similar this week. You asked me previously, like, are you more worried about a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle or what else, or was it more about the backfield? And I said the backfield. Well, I think it's similar this week. Well, I think we held those guys in check for the most part. But I think
Mhm.
once most of came back into the game and different things like that, once they made plays in the backfield, I think it, obviously it opened things up and it was able to get points on the board. I think it holds the same thing this week, man. You don't want to allow Jamari Gibbs or, David Montgomery to have any splash plays because it'll open up things on the other end. As long as we're doing good as far as, just keeping that in check, I think we'll be okay, man. But it starts there for sure.
I think the biggest thing too in this game is just don't allow them to establish the play action because Goff is a beast
Yeah.
when he can establish that play action game. So, like you said, if we can score early, we can score often. They cannot establish the run. Goff is forced to play in a drop back pass game. That's where he struggles. That's what caused Sean McVay to start hating him, right? They lost Todd Gurley. They couldn't
Yeah.
run the ball. That's kind of where we need to go with this one. But I do kind of have a critical question for you in this one. So, my man CD Lamb, right? You see the stat right here. He's 3 receptions and 180 yards away, man, to surpassing Michael Irvin with the Dallas Cowboys single season receiving record holder for receptions and yards. Is this the week that he obviously gets the receptions? I think without a doubt. But could we see him hit 180 yards this week and pass that up against this weak Detroit secondary?
That's possible. I don't know if CD has hit 180 yards in the game yet, right? But man, like he's talented enough to do so. I don't think it'll happen this week. I think this is more of a week where you want to get everybody involved. Brandon Cooks, like I spoke of, Jake Ferguson, let Dag scan the field and get everybody involved. But CD himself, I could see CD getting a buck 50, buck 40, whatever it may be. I don't know about 180. If he gets 180, boy, mark us up in the one column. Because it means he the hand Dak that went crazy. The here we go offense is in full effect, and I would foresee that as everything is clicking how it should be clicking. You know what I mean? And um, I believe he can do so. I don't think it'll happen this week, but for sure by the season's end, I think CD will hold both records for sure.
That's what if CD doesn't get 3 catches this week, I'll be tight. So he should at least hit that this week, but I fully expect him, to at least hit that next week. If you want, we can take a deep dive. Actually, it's not that deep of a dive at all. We can take a look real quick at the end of the schedule, end of the year. Obviously, we dropped 2 L's there. Between the Detroit secondary and then playing against Washington's poor secondary, I can see CD catching 180 yards, right?
For sure, for sure.
So it almost appears as if this record is his for the taking. Those 2 X's look ugly on here, though, right?
I hate it, man. I hate it. Really my prediction was going 7-1 this final stretch. Obviously, we 4-2. And I think we take these last 2 games. Make no mistake about it, right? The way I'm feeling, right? I don't foresee us losing 3 straight. Detroit is as good and as talented as they are. They obviously won the division last week. But we've seen them struggle, man. We see Chicago could have beat them. Obviously, one week they came back and got them. Even when you think about was it Green Bay? They came and got them.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Green Bay. I don't foresee Green Bay as a good team, and then if you think about it, also Minnesota, man. Minnesota had all the chances in that game, and I don't foresee Minnesota as a good team. Yes, they have a good record, right? But I do believe Dallas is the better team, and you know what I mean. I feel like fully expect us to come out here and get this dub this week. But nonetheless, I feel like it's going to be a good test. We're back at home. Everything is kind of lining up in our favor. We got to get back on the winning side of it. And to be truthful, I see that -4.5. I know you said you don't really trust it like that or whatever. I want to come out here and smack Detroit. I'm not even thinking 4.5. I'm taking at least 7 and maybe even more, maybe even 10 points. I think we come out here. I think we got a point to prove, and I think we come out here. We grab a hold of this thing early, and I think we take this one.
I think you convinced me. And I think, too, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Dallas had ever lost back-to-back games under Mike McCarthy until these last 2 games here. You mentioned they probably have a point to prove. I think I might lay the 4.5 with Dallas heading into the week.
Oh, for sure. I think we got this, man.
Especially at home, like you mentioned, the here we go offense. I do want to pull up real quick the NFC landscape, right? And it really hurt my feelings today having to move Dallas from the 2 seed down to the 5 when I was putting this back together, man. I think the way this is going to shake out, the 6 and 7 seed have kind of been flirting around with those bubble spots too. How those seeds wind up, I'm not sure, but I do believe the 1-2. Detroit could sneak into the 2 seed. I think Tampa Bay's rolling under Baker Mayfield, but I think the way the NFC playoff picture is really lining up, that there's a strong chance that after we play Detroit this week, we get a win at home. That's who we could end up seeing in the first. Oh no, I'm sorry. We would end up probably seeing Tampa Bay in the first round, but I do think there's a path where we end up playing Detroit in the playoffs in Detroit. But I would also be super excited to see the Jared Goff, Sean McVay grudge match. It's kind of shaking out to play out that way. And then it looks like a revenge game too between Seattle and Philadelphia.
Well, look, honestly, I'm okay with all of this, right? If we send Tampa Bay in the first round, like we're good. Only thing, obviously, we sit there and we're like, man, it really sucks is that we don't get the home field advantage. But if you can just kind of just sit back and look at how this thing is playing out, like we talked about, Dallas and Tampa Bay, cool, right? I could see Seattle taking a matchup against obviously Philly. I could see obviously LA and the Rams are playing good football as of late. I could see them taking out Detroit. I think it's really posing a situation where we might not have to see San Fran to the NFC Championship game. There's a lot of things still in play. Like I said, the division is still in play. Will Johns get a win? I don't know. You talked about DeVito getting benched and how much better they look with obviously Tyrod Taylor. The Arizona Cardinals are sneaky. It's a lot of things that can happen. The season, it's the NFL, man. It's the NFL, man. A lot of things happen. It gets weird week to week, man. We thought San Fran was the best team in the league, and we seen them get smacked by Baltimore, right? And Philly, they lost against the Juggernauts just because they beat the Giants by what was that, like 7 points, 6 points?
Yeah, it was close.
Philly's not back. I don't look at it like that. And as I just spoke of Detroit, I done seen them struggle against all these lower level teams. and they find out they come and get a win against Minnesota. I can't just say Detroit is one of those ones, right? We still got to see all of these teams at their best. Everybody is taking losses, right? Baltimore, I give them the obviously the benefit of the doubt. They came out there and they beat the so-called number one team, and let's put them there. Anybody else that you bring up to me right now, all of them have losses, all of them has losing streaks, all of them are vulnerable at some point, right? I think the main thing for us, let's just control what we can control. Let's get back on the winning side of things. Let's get that mojo back. Let's start feeling good. I think if we come out here and get a nice win against Detroit, we beat Washington. That's a 2-game winning streak going into the playoffs. We get Tampa Bay. And all those other matchups, let's just we can only control who we control. I foresee us being in this 5 seed, which is okay. I'm not gonna say, and like I said before, I'm not hoping for Arizona or the Giants to beat Philly. They may, but let's not expect that to happen. But a lot of things can change over the course of weeks, as we already know, right? But I think we're good. We're in a good spot. It sucks that we didn't get any of these last 2 wins, but I think in general, Cowboy Nation, we fine, man. We good.
I think you set the tone perfectly too, man. You called the 4.5, Dallas laying 4.5. I think, as you said, we should finish the season 12-5, man, head into and take on Baker Mayfield and probably the Tampa Bay Bucks. But that's it from my side, and this is the End Zone Experience, man. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe. You got any final words?
Hey, here we go. We back full effect. What we going on? 13 in a row? 14 in a row? What's it? 15?
Something like that.
I don't know.
It
The
might be
numbers, the numbers just keep adding up, man. And you know what I mean? Let's expect to keep that streak going this week, man. Appreciate y'all, Cowboy Nation. Stay tuned. We out.